Hi, my name is Ronit, and with my partner in crime, podcast crime, Gaurav, we're delighted to host this session. Sam, welcome. Or should we call you Samuel? I don't know. Sam sounds very
Sam is
English.
fine. Sam is
What
fine.
is
It's
it,
more.
Sam?
No, Sam is good. Sam is good. It's more international. It works for me.
Sam, you, like Gaurav and myself, are zooming in from somewhere in Dubai, correct?
That's right. Yeah, I'm downtown Dubai.
Downtown Dubai, living the dream, in the shadow of the Burj.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's right. A welcome shadow in this heat.
Sam, for folks who don't know you, tell the audience a little bit about yourself. How does a Frenchman end up in Dubai, living in the shadow of the Burj?
It hasn't been a straight line. Yeah, so I run a company now called LandVault, which is a metaverse infrastructure company. We build virtual worlds for big brands and governments, as well as technology to power that. The way I got into that was through gaming. I had a gaming company for the last 4 years, which then pivoted into that metaverse company, which I founded in London. Raised quite a lot of money over the years, set up a team, and more recently came to Dubai. And the reason why I was in the UK is because when I was a teenager, I wanted to work in Formula One, which was my big passion. And I decided to, after my bachelor, I decided to do a year to specialize myself in motorsport engineering. And the best schools for that were in the UK. This is how I got into the UK. And then a few years after, I got hired by Mercedes Formula One, spent a few years there before I started my entrepreneurship journey. So it's I guess you could say that because of Formula One, I'm here in the shadow of the Burj, although it hasn't been a straight line.
How do you go from, let's dig into this a bit more. How do you go from Formula One to the metaverse?
I know. I wish there was a story. I'm still trying to find a cool link for my future, biography. But the truth is, there isn't really.
Your Netflix special.
Yeah, exactly. There'll be a missing episode, I guess, between the two. There's no clear link. I mean, when I was a teenager and I studied physics, I like to understand how things worked. But I felt that just physics was very to apply that to a more practical field, and being passionate about Formula One felt like it would be a fun place to work, which is interesting also because it's very fast paced, a bit like startups. You build something and on the weekend you see it on track. It's very close feedback loops, and so that was really interesting. But I always had this urge to do my own thing. And it just wasn't possible in working for a Formula One team. And I, at some point, had the urge to do something. I didn't really know what. I didn't really have any B2B expertise. So I thought I'm just going to get into just going to build games, which kind of sounded simple, or at least something where you don't need huge expertise in SaaS or whatever. So that was kind of my entry point, and then I spent about 6 months learning that, built a couple of games, and then very quickly decided to pivot from the content into more of a technology play.
And what kind of games were you guys building?
So that's another funny thing. We were building what today you would call hyper casual, which are games that are played on mobile, very short session times. Generally, very simple graphics. You play with like one finger, you slide something or you cut it or whatever. But the reason why we settled on that is because we didn't have resources. I mean, I was funding the whole thing, and we didn't have designers to do like complex 3D assets. So we thought, let's just do simple graphics. And now it's called hyper casual. It's the most downloaded type of games out there, billions of downloads a year. At the time, this was just I guess by design, by limitation of resources, we settled for very simple mechanics.
Gaming, then you went to the metaverse. Let's sort of level set the conversation. In your words, Sam, how would you define the metaverse?
We define the metaverse as a 3D internet. That's kind of like our general definition, right? It's a place where you'll be able to do things like you do on the internet, like social networking, shopping, visiting places. But the new interface is not going to be text and pictures. It's going to be a 3D environment. So we quite like that analogy with 3D internet. Another way to look at it is to look at it as gaming technology is going mainstream. Gaming technologies were obviously initially used to build games. We're talking about real-time 3D tech like Unity, Unreal, but actually you could use that to power a 3D internet where gaming would be one application, but you could also do movies, you could also do virtual shops and other types of experiences. So this is kind of a two definition, but I think the one that resonates the most is a 3D version of the internet.
And when you think about the metaverse, what do you think are the sort of the big use cases going to be?
I mean, I think, coming down from our definition that the metaverse is a 3D internet, there will be various use cases. I think last year the whole world got excited a bit too quickly, thinking that everyone would go in the metaverse and there would be use cases for everyone in the next couple of months. And this is why you had, FMCG brands trying to sell processed food through the metaverse, which may not be the right thing to do. So I think the first use cases that we see, at least in the region here, it's obviously marketing. To be a bit more precise, we see a lot of, I guess, digital tourism is how I would qualify it. So destinations, governments themselves, real estate, that want to kind of showcase their real property, but in the digital world for the whole world to see. And this is something that can apply to a building, an experience, but also a whole country. Dubai and the UAE specifically are always trying to promote what the Burj and all this crazy landmarks and buildings and amazing things that they have going on. And even though a lot of people live here, it's still a tiny fraction of the world. So what is the best way to showcase that to the 7 billion people who have never been here? And so our view is that the metaverse is going to be the next best thing to reality. The best thing is to come here or to talk face to face or to go to a real concert.
Yeah.
But if you can't do that, the second best thing should be the metaverse. Right now, the second best thing is videos, but the metaverse will be a layer between video and reality. That's how we see it.
So it's Habibi, come to Dubai, but come to Dubai via the metaverse. I get it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Exactly. If you can't go here, you can roll in from a virtual experience.
Come to the Dubai-verse. Some would argue Dubai is already a metaverse. It's unreal.
Yeah, it's been built quickly, and there's a lot of empty land around it. So there's the analogy does work.
It does, doesn't it? In a way, we're living the future, the capital of the future. Huh? Gaurav, come on, jump in. Bail me out with some sensible questions about business building and stuff like that.
I'll
Sam's a founder, so we need some sensible questions about his journey as a founder.
I'll try my best, brother. I'll try my best. Thanks a lot, Ronit. Sam, good to see you. Good to see you again. And, obviously, in the short time that I last saw you till now, you've settled into Dubai and the Dubai life. How are things going from your point of view in the customer engagement for LandVault? You're here, I believe you've moved here full time. You're looking to move a team here because there's opportunity here, or there's the potential opportunity. Have you captured any opportunity that you can tell us about?
Yeah, we have. So it's been a really interesting journey. We had started to work already with a UAE government just before I arrived here. This was our first project. And we've been able, through that, with those credentials, to attract a lot of other interest. I think we have 6 or 7 things going on right now at different stages, a lot of them being quite early stage. So, it takes time for those deals to happen. But I think what has been proven is that the level of interest, at least of excitement, of proposals, of concepts, people actually wanting to do something in the metaverse, this is where it's happening. And I would extend this to GCC region generally. It's quite a lot in Saudi, a little bit in Qatar, Bahrain, and so on. So that was definitely, I think, the right bet, because we're seeing that in other markets. We were working with lots of brands, from the Mastercard to Standard Chartered, the Heineken, L'Oreal, all of those. They all experimented in the metaverse. They all did something. But this is, for a lot of them, this was not a long-term project. And now that there's just less hype, less coverage for metaverse, going back to the basics of driving ROI, there's just less excitement generally about that in the rest of the world. So coming here was trying to capture as much excitement as possible, and so far it's been really positive.
From a product and services point of view, is LandVault any different to companies that are building these 3D spaces? Are you doing something that is unique or separate to what everyone else does? Or is it for lack of an unfortunate pun intended, is it just a land grab right now for people to rush into the space and be the first builders? If someone built Amazon, but they didn't build the internet, right? And using that, they build forward. So are you in the same space, or are you building something that sets you very far apart from people that are also building 3D mapping of the internet in your space?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So there are two sides to our business. One is the content side, where, as I mentioned, we build those experiences and virtual worlds for brands, for governments. And this, yes, we have skills. We have 120 builders, architects, designers. We pretty well equipped to sell to big brands, which, you can be a very talented designer, but you don't necessarily know how to construct a deal with a large brand and know how to follow up and have proper account management. So we're very well set up there, but that's not the real differentiator, as you said. Other studios could do that. We have good credentials, but the barrier to entry of building something is not very high. The other side of the business is the tech that we're building, and that's what we are raising money for. That's what creates the defensibility of our company. And this technology is basically what we use to then deploy our client projects on. So we have three categories. The first one is around creation. So we are starting to work with generative AI to accelerate the building process. And the idea is to get to a point where a project that would take a month to build would only take a day. We're not there yet, but that's the plan. To reduce the cost and therefore reduce the barriers to entry to build, make it much simpler to build, create this WordPress moments, as I call it, where everyone can build a metaverse experience as easily as it is to build a website. So that's the first product. We also building a protocol to deploy that content on the web. We think that metaverse platforms that require downloading an app, buying land, buying cryptocurrency, not working on mobile, this is just too many barriers to entry for people. So we're basically making the metaverse accessible through a link. So you get a link, you open it on your phone, on 4G or whatever, you can navigate that 3D environment. You don't need to download anything. So that's also unique technology that we have. And then the last piece is generating revenue from this environments, whether you want to advertise in your space, good, have a toolkit that enables you to do all of that. So every time we have a project with a big brand or a government, we use our technology in that project. So the project side is really a way to take this tech to market. And the tech is what's unique and defensible.
So when you're talking about building these tools and tool sets, you're consuming them yourself for the moment and you're delivering them, in applications for your customers. Are you going to make them available to others?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the idea. That's the next step, to basically just become completely productize our offering. I think there's still going to be space for a studio like LandVault for the really big projects. But, as we start to decrease the prices because of technology like generative AI, suddenly you'll have, individuals or small and medium businesses who will be able to just use the platform as a SaaS and create content, deploy it, monetize it themselves without the studio side of things. So that's the plan basically for the mid to long term. At the moment, we're still very focused on building and basically making sure that everything works properly, deploying that technology with big clients. Eventually, this will be more decentralized, and everyone will have access to the tools.
The interesting thing is that you mentioned you have 120 builders. Are those full-time employees?
We have it's a network of builders that are basically contracted to LandVault, but we're able to deploy them on specific projects. So yes, they are full-time, but it's also a smart way to be able to scale up and down based on the demand that we have at a given time.
Because I imagine, one thing that we keep coming back to in this space is, one is that, first of all, and two parts of the category is the vintage of experience in the metaverse of Web3 is only 7 years or 8 years maximum, which is not really a vintage of anything at all, on anything, in any timeline, in any history. 8 years is very short. And so the number of developers and talent that you have to navigate through a space very effectively for something as sensitive as a brand or technology where consumers and businesses are so finicky and fussy, it's quite a daunting task. Do you not find that much of a challenge? I mean, you're going to scale at some point. Do you find that a challenge, or is talent very easily available for the components that are guarantee a successful LandVault to keep evolving?
No, the talent, it's not that easy to find. And I think that's one of the differentiator on the studio side, is that we have this network that we keep, busy and utilized by sending in projects to build. And we know that those people are going to deliver because we worked with them in the past. So they are very much, our own builders, and that having, that kind of expertise, building this amazing virtual world available on mobile, really easy to load. This is not easy to build. So definitely at this point, because it's still very early on, the skills and the expertise is part of the differentiator for sure.
And when you're building products and services with revenue streams, have you got multiple internal recurring revenue streams within productizing your virtual worlds? Are you taking transaction payments through there? Are you issuing wallets? Are you selling advertising space? Are you doing, like you do in the real world, I can have a virtual billboard. How much of what you do is, I'll build everything for free, but I will capture revenue through say a proposition? Is it per client basis, or is there a standardized modeled approach to this? Because there's no template for it.
There's no template.
Creating the template along with your peers and competitors in the market. What is the structure of the approach today?
No, that's a great question. And to be honest, if you look at what happened on the internet, the cost of building has basically gone down to zero. Building a website, it's not that defensible. You can assemble it yourself using WordPress or Wix or whatever, and you make money on the back end. So the goal, and I think generative AI with the metaverse is going to be a catalyst to accelerate that transition and make building cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and eventually not that defensible, which is why we're investing in it, almost disrupting ourselves, because we know that 120 builders or 1,000 builders, it's not a defensible way to protect ourselves. So the defensibility is definitely the tech, and so the goal long term is to give people tools to be able to build and make money with the tools that we give them to monetize. For example, if you want to sell products within the metaverse experience, we take a couple % from that. We have a network of screens across most metaverses, I think 140 screens now, that we can sell to advertisers. When you have a billion people, a billion eyeballs in front of those screens, that real estate is going to be valuable. And our tech powers that. So we've been putting the foundations to power that future business model. At the moment, it's probably about 30% of our revenue. Most of it is upfront built. And the reason we're doing upfront builds now is because this is the biggest opportunity to capture revenue today. But long term, the revenue is going to transition towards monetization and others. So yeah, that's as you identify, that's basically the trajectory that we are forecasting for revenue.
And so, what's the total size of the company today? Because how old is the company, and how many employees do you have?
It's about 5 years. 2018 is when we really started to to grow. We raised a seed round in December 2018. So let's count that as the first first real start of the company. In total now it's about 155. So you include all the builders, right, that are deployed on different projects, and then we have about 30, 40 people now that are more like internal. So they build the tech, they build the product. There's a small marketing function, and then obviously sales and delivery.
That's a very big team to build so quickly in such a young space. I mean, kudos to you for being able to do that, and and hopefully keeping people on board, because I'm sure there's always there's a huge demand for talent. So there must be a lot of poaching going on, especially in your space. Moving away from that for one moment, can you tell us about what's the biggest project you've done and what's the smallest project you've done, and how those approaches for building those from a productization or service or revenue point of view has been for you in your approach for those two projects?
Yeah, the smallest project, I mean, we've built projects for NFT collections that wanted to get in the metaverse, for example, for maybe $20,000 or something like that, which was a simple plot in the sandbox with a simple activation. Takes maybe a month to build, or even a couple of weeks to build. So that's on one extreme. And then a bigger one would be one of the ongoing project now that is for a local government. Let's put it at that, and that's that's going to be a multi-year project. Obviously, we're not building everything at the same time, but we're building I guess building by building or department by department, using our own technology to deploy that content on the web. With the government, the data needs to be stored locally, so there's a whole infrastructure play as well. So that's those are the big projects that are multi-year and well into seven figures.
I can imagine when you engage in projects and people approach you with their own templates, it's much easier for you to build those to specification as opposed to you guiding someone through a project. When you look at a retail project like a shopping mall or an experience, it's very obvious about how you monetize that from a delivery or transaction point of view. But when someone's building a government or a building for government services, what's the hope there? Is the idea to allow people who are not physically able to navigate those spaces to do it, or is it simply a showcase of what the best processes look like for them? What's the objective with people who want to build these things? Because I'm very curious, are these marketing budgets or are these business budgets?
Yeah, no, it's a great, amazing question. And it's a mix, to be honest. And, you said at the beginning of that question that it's easier if we have specs. We very rarely have specs, to be honest. Most of the time, you have someone pretty high up in the company that knows that the metaverse is the next place where they need to be. They need to make sure their business stays relevant for the new generation, but they're not quite sure what to do. And even if you have a shop, the first thing that people have in mind is that skeuomorphic approach, which is basically replicating the real world, but in the metaverse. So let's walk through a mall and grab products. And it's like, well, I think we can do better than that, because the goal is not to do exactly what you can do in the real world. Otherwise, just do it in the real world. We have to leverage the fact that this is digital. There's no gravity. There is no sense of transportation. You can just jump from A to B. So this is where our expertise comes in, to make sure that we don't just replicate a mall or just replicate a city, just building by building, but we actually create something fun, engaging, that people will spend time on, because people are busy. And to ask people to spend time into a digital world, it needs to be more appealing to them than anything else that they could do at that time, which includes funny videos on TikTok and Instagram and all this stuff. So that's the utility that we're trying to bring. And yeah, to answer the second part, exactly as you said, there's basically two kind of utility. One is marketing and showcasing. So it's more about showing nice graphics and fly through above the Burj Khalifa and seeing the new hotel and being able to get into the best suite and seeing how things are, to give you a taste of what this could be and prompt you to visit that place for real. So showcasing, digital tourism, as we call it. And the other one is more utility. So, how to improve procurement through the metaverse, for example, or how to make it a better shopping experience. And those ones are obviously more difficult. And so that requires a lot of, brainstorming and user testing to make sure that whatever we create actually generates real value, not just a gimmick.
And I think the last question for me is on the consumption side, right? From a product and service you're building for a client who's wanting people to consume. And today you have headsets, which are expensive. They're not out there. They're not frequently used in abundance as much as, say, a phone is. You have people with smartphones that's extremely well used. And of course, we have computers, right? And I imagine you're catering for almost all these formats. But really, at what stage is the consumption the most? Is it on mobile? Is it on computers? Or is it through these VR or AR, type of formats? Where do you see the largest consumption? Where do you see it moving to in terms of people that are interacting, getting the most experience out of this metaverse? Because today I can do a 3D model fly through, but if I'm doing it in the way that you're doing it from an interactive experience, there has to be some sort of engagement.
Yes.
Where is it highest today? And where is it going to move to? What's your opinion or visibility on that spec?
Yeah, so we actually developed the technology to be able to stream really high fidelity content on the browser, on every device, including mobile. And since then, we've seen huge adoption on the mobile device. I mean, over 75% of users generally. And that makes sense because they have access to it, they receive a link, they click the link, they play, they could be in a transport. Consuming a quick experience somewhere is not something you're gonna sit in front of your laptop to do. So if you can do it on the fly, this is how you're gonna capture most people's attention. So mobile is definitely where it's at, and I think really the first ones to crack a good metaverse mobile experience will win the race because that's just where people's attention is. And I think this is gonna remain like that for a long time to come. Even though VR, AR, those are cool technologies, but I think they're going to remain, I guess, niche and something that you would do if you want the best experience. It's kind of like going to the cinema. You only do that for the best movies, movies that you really want to see, but you're not doing it every day. And I think it's going to be the same. If you want the best metaverse experience because you really want to go into this shopping mall or do this ski experience, whatever, then you might put the device on and spend some quality time in front of it. But for most interactions, which is just, oh, my friend sent me this, I'm going to go check it out. And it's, 5 minutes later, you're out, then you need a mobile for that. So this is why we really believe in mobile metaverse.
Sam, thanks so much on my part. I'm very keen to see what you do next and where you're building and get some access to these projects so we can go zooming through this, whether it's on my phone or on my Oculus headset and the rest of it on my Quest. And with that, I'll see you soon and I'll hand back to Ronit. Ronit, thank you.
Thanks a lot, man. Thanks.
Thanks. Sam, maybe just to wrap up, let's talk a little bit more about use cases. You said it's a busy world. We've got lots of things to do, whether we're working or otherwise distracted. How do we capture eyeballs, mind share? What are going to be like the killer apps, so to speak, to misuse a terminology from the last generation of the internet? What's the killer apps?
Well, if you look backwards, to me, the killer app of the metaverse is gaming, because gaming, again, is kind of was the first use case for gaming technologies. Obviously, they were built for it. But now you can use Unity, you can use Unreal to create environments that go beyond gaming. So, if we go to 2050 and we look back, we would say, oh, gaming was really the first metaverse. It was this metaverse where you could only play games. And now you can meet friends, you can shop, you can see this, you can do that. So to me, this is the use case. And, that's the beauty of it, because the metaverse does not require a new customer behavior. There's 3 billion people that play games every day. And they spend about $200 billion a year in virtual goods and items within games. So the behavior of spending time in a digital environment, moving an avatar, buying virtual things that already exist. It's already there. The use case is there. And if the content is engaging enough, if the core loop is well done, then people spend hours and hours playing games. So this is how we need to build the metaverse. It needs to be a fun, engaging experience with the reason to go there, not just a shop front, because people are not excited by that. They're not excited about the metaverse being a giant mall. Maybe here, maybe in Dubai, but
Sam is backtracking quickly as you realize how many sales he's just blown. We'll edit this out, Sam. Don't worry.
You've given away all your client list, Sam.
Hello, Majid Al
No, but yeah, I think to me that's why I'm super bullish still. The fundamentals of virtual world. Do people want to spend time in virtual world? Yes, gaming has proven that they do, and especially the younger generation that has been born playing games and not watching TV. To me, this is a no-brainer that a three-dimensional environment is an interface that they understand.
Switching gears to thinking about a kind of topic Gaurav mentioned in terms of product. So a lot of people have been kind of poo-pooing the metaverse in the last 6-12 months and saying no one's going to sit around wearing a 3D headset, a VR headset. It's just too antisocial, too clunky, too this, that. So we started this conversation by defining the metaverse, but almost like, let's finish the conversation by saying, for you, how do you, like, it's an immersive experience, yes, but what are going to be the main kind of interfaces or devices via which you, me, and others will access the metaverse? Are we all going to be strapping on 3D VR headsets? Is that the future, or what is? Yeah, what's the interface?
No, it's not the future. No, I think it's what I was saying earlier. To me, if the metaverse is like the internet you can consume it on your phone, on your desktop, even on your TV. So it's device agnostic, right? The device is just a window to that content. And the metaverse is going to be the same. I think most use cases in the metaverse are going to be through our mobile. It's going to look like a game where you can move something, but you have a 3D experience. So instead of browsing pictures of the Louis Vuitton shoes that you want to buy, you will be able to put them onto your avatar and snap selfies in 3D and see exactly how it looks before you can actually buy them. A better experience. So that's, to me, 90% of the time will be spent on mobile. There will be a better experience on desktop. If you have more time, if you want to get more immersed, you can do that in a bigger screen. And then the ultimate experience will be VR, because you feel like you are in the content. But again, this is not something that people will be doing at all times. This is the going to the movies equivalent. It's something that is almost like an event in itself. You're planning it. Tonight I'm going to spend 1 hour doing this because this experience is, I just want the best, to experience it in the best possible way. So to me, that's it. The metaverse is not meant to change our behavior. It's not meant to force us to use other devices. It's just an evolution of content. And the fact that we can leverage better technologies, immersive technologies, to be able to tell better stories and drive, a business outcome eventually.
So to summarize, it's a 3D immersive internet that we access through multiple devices, and gaming is for you the kind of killer use case. Last word from you, if the audience has to think about, if they're listening to this in 6 months or 9 months or 12 months time, sometime between now and say 12 months, 6 to 12 months, what are the 2 or 3 things that you think have happened to propel the growth of the metaverse? Obviously, you're all in. This is where your business is focused. But what do you think is going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months, if anything, that's going to make us, in Dubai, everyone's like still interested at a policy level, at a government level, but there's a lot of skepticism outside. What's going to happen? What are the catalysts that this is not just a mirage?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, building that transition, we've ridden the height of the metaverse, and now the lows when it comes to perception. We are building solutions to get out of that. And the best thing that I can think of is easier accessibility. Right now, most platforms, they're still quite, hard to access. You sometimes need to create a wallet. There's a very kind of crypto bro element. You need to buy land, you need to trade the token, lots of barriers to entry. So the first thing, at least let's reduce that complexity and make it accessible on every device through a link. So that's one of the things that we're building. So I think, in maybe not 3 months, but let's say in a year, we'll look back and wonder why this is not how it started. Why was it so complicated? That's going to be the main thing. And I think that is make it easier to share and to consume will undeniably make it, accessible to more people. So that's the first thing. And the second thing I think is use cases from big brands or companies that actually found a real way to drive tangible business through the metaverse.
So easy to access platforms, so like Web 2.5, Web 2 type platforms. And then the use case, in your view, is like, it's basically sort of souped up, hyped up gaming is what's going to drive this.
I think gaming is what's working now. If you look at how much time people spend playing games, it's clear that there's a real product market fit there. What I'm saying is now we can use those technologies to do other things. I do think that digital tourism, being able to browse, whether it's a building, a villa in Bali, or a fly through of the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, while you can't be there, this is something that is appealing. And then you can connect, travel use cases to this, to book a ticket or whatever. I think we're seeing a lot of traction on this side. On the real estate as well, digital twins of buildings for marketing purposes or sales. Those are two things that I think make a lot of sense. And then the last one is digital events, creating a digital version of events like a film festival or music festival, to give access to billions of people who cannot go to the real event. Not that it replaces it, but it's the second best thing. That's the thing. Yeah.
Sam, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure on behalf of Gaurav, myself, and CFTE to have hosted you. And look forward to
Thanks for having me. We'll keep you posted. Do another episode in a year's time.
You bet. Anytime you want. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.